The anticipation was electric on the set of The View that morning. It was one of those rare television events when the guest list alone promised fireworks. Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex and arguably one of the most polarizing public figures in recent memory, was set to share the stage with none other than Angelina Jolie, Academy Award-winning actress, humanitarian, and global diplomat. The episode was billed as a conversation about women in power and global philanthropy, but there was an unspoken current of competition humming beneath the surface before a single word was exchanged. From the moment Meghan stepped onto the stage, poised and polished in an elegant cream-colored blouse with subtle gold accessories, her presence commanded attention. She greeted the hosts with practiced grace, her smile lighting up the studio. Her talking points were ready, a well-rehearsed script about her new foundation, her work in women's empowerment, and the challenges of balancing motherhood with global activism. She spoke clearly and earnestly, exuding an air of confidence that was hard to miss. Angelina Jolie, however, was a stark contrast. Dressed simply in a black tailored suit, her presence was quiet yet unmistakably powerful. She didn't enter with the same effusive charm as Meghan, but her calm, almost solemn demeanor turned just as many heads. Jolie wasn't there to charm. She was there to speak with intention. The first few minutes went smoothly. Joy Behar opened the floor with light-hearted questions about their families and how each woman manages the spotlight. Meghan spoke of her children with affection, joking about the chaos of morning routines. Angelina smiled politely but remained largely reserved, chiming in with thoughtful but brief responses. It was when the topic shifted to global charity work that things began to unravel. Meghan, gaining confidence, dove into her experiences with Archewell and the projects she'd supported in recent years. She used phrases like, reshaping narratives, creating safe spaces, and giving voice to the voiceless. The audience responded warmly, but while she spoke, cameras caught Angelina giving a subtle but unmistakable eyebrow raise. Joy Behar, sensing tension, leaned in and asked what seemed like a harmless question. Angelina, you've been doing humanitarian work for years, from Cambodia to Syria to the UN. Do you feel like some celebrities today are more about looking charitable than actually being involved? The air shifted instantly. Angelina didn't miss a beat. There's a difference between being a humanitarian and playing one for the cameras, she said, her voice soft but sharp. It's not about hashtags or polished press releases. It's about being there when no one is watching. The audience murmured, sensing the pointed undertone. Meghan froze for a second but quickly recovered, flashing a cool smile. If that's directed at me, I would just say, I don't need to parade around refugee camps to prove I care. My work speaks for itself. Whoopi Goldberg raised her eyebrows, visibly uncomfortable now. Sunny Hostin looked back and forth between them like she was watching a chess match. Angelina turned to Meghan, her expression unreadable. With all due respect, humanitarian work isn't about proving anything. It's about listening, understanding, and committing long after the media's moved on. Not everyone who shows up in a crisis leaves behind a camera crew. It was a direct hit. The studio audience gasped audibly. Meghan's lips parted slightly as if to reply, but the words caught somewhere behind her poised smile. Her voice was measured as she leaned in, trying to regain control of the narrative. And yet here we are, she said, glancing toward the audience, on The View. Having this conversation in front of millions. Promoting ourselves as global changemakers. I think we all know the game, Angelina. Angelina's eyes narrowed just a fraction. She leaned back in her seat and, in a tone laced with a quiet sting, replied, some people earn their platform. Others marry into it. There's a difference. The room erupted. Gasps, laughter, even a few claps from the audience. Meghan's calm exterior fractured for the first time. Her eyes darted toward the producers offstage. Someone in her team was already stepping forward. And just like that, the carefully planned morning segment transformed into an unplanned showdown, one that was already being clipped, captioned, and shared across social media before the show even cut to commercial. The commercial break felt longer than usual. Backstage, the tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Meghan's team hovered around her like anxious bees, whispering furiously into earpieces and checking their phones as hashtags related to the clash started trending on social media within minutes. Meghan sat rigid, her expression a careful mask of composure, but her clenched jaw and narrowed eyes betrayed her fury. Her publicist leaned in close, whispering, let it go. Recenter. Stay poised. Don't escalate. Across the hall, Angelina sat calmly, sipping water. She was alone. No team swarmed her, no crisis PR huddle. She didn't need one, she had spoken her mind, and now she waited for the next segment like nothing had happened, composed, unbothered, and dangerously silent. When The View returned from break, the hosts put on their best, "let's move on" faces, but the tension in the room remained obvious. The audience, still abuzz from the earlier exchange, leaned in as Joy Behar tried to ease them back into the discussion. "We're back with Meghan Markle and Angelina Jolie, two incredible women with powerful voices in today's world," she said with a smile too wide to be natural. "Let's shift gears and talk about global outreach and what each of you is focusing on now." Meghan took the bait, clearly attempting to reset the tone. "Look," she said with a polished smile, folding her hands delicately, "we're two women who care deeply about the world. We may differ in approach, but surely we can agree that compassion, dignity, and hope are universal values. I think it's important we show unity, especially for younger generations watching." There was a soft round of applause. It was a gracious olive branch, diplomatically delivered. For a brief moment, it looked like she might smooth things over. But Angelina wasn't interested in performance. She wasn't playing for optics. "I absolutely agree," Angelina said calmly. "But compassion without accountability becomes performance. The truth is, a lot of people confuse visibility with value. They think being seen doing good is the same as doing good. It's not." The audience erupted into scattered applause, clearly picking up on the subtext. Meghan stiffened. Her smile remained, but her eyes turned icy. "You've made your position clear," she said with measured restraint. "But I'd just caution against making assumptions. Not every act of kindness has to look the same." Angelina nodded thoughtfully, then looked directly at Meghan. "That's fair, but when those acts are followed by exclusive interviews, multi-million-dollar production deals, and highly curated documentaries, at what point does it stop being about the cause and start being about the brand?" It was brutal. The audience gasped again. Joy and Sunny looked stunned. Whoopi let out a low whistle under her breath. This wasn't just a clash of personalities anymore, it was a philosophical duel, and Meghan was losing ground fast. Meghan, for all her media training, looked rattled. "Now, that's easy to say from your platform," she snapped, the cracks finally showing. "Not all of us had the luxury of being born into Hollywood royalty and having the world handed to us." That was the moment everything shifted. Angelina leaned forward, her tone dropping low and calm, lethal. "And yet you married into actual royalty and then walked away when it didn't suit your image. Don't lecture me on platforms. Some of us built ours brick by brick, in war zones and refugee camps, not palaces and press tours." The silence was deafening. It was a televised knockout punch. Meghan's face paled, and for the first time, she didn't respond. There was nothing left to say. Producers quickly jumped in and cut the segment short, citing time constraints. Meghan was escorted off set during the next commercial break. Officially, her team claimed she had a prior engagement, but no one was buying it. She had been publicly and undeniably outmatched. Angelina remained for the final segment, calmly discussing her work with the UN and her most recent field visit to Sudan. The contrast between her composed presence and Meghan's abrupt departure was impossible to ignore. By the time the episode ended, clips of the clash were everywhere. Within hours, hashtags like #Jolie shuts it down, #ViewClash, and #Duchess vs Diplomat were trending across platforms. Reactions poured in, from celebrities, political commentators, even former palace aides. Public opinion was divided, but one thing was clear: Angelina had walked in as a guest and left as a victor. Meanwhile, Meghan's PR team scrambled to contain the fallout. Statements were released, allegations of ambush tactics by the producers circulated. But it was too late. The world had seen the unfiltered exchange, and no amount of spin could erase the image of Meghan Markle being publicly humbled, live, and in HD. It wasn't just a bad interview. It was a cultural moment. And Meghan, for once, didn't control the narrative.